just double checking that you can all see me and you can all hear me. So we're going to begin our lecture today. Before we begin, my name is Rahma, and I'm honoured to be the host for what is a very, very important topic today. And just before we start, just to go over some quick ground rules, I can see that everyone's already following it. Please, when you do enter the room, keep yourself on mute if you're not already muted, and so that we can have, a really good flow of conversation, and we'll have time for questions right at the end, inshallah. So just so we don't interrupt any of our speakers or anyone misses some of the really, really vital gems that we might be gaining today. So yeah, as long as we stay on track with that, everything should be smooth sailing. Right, so welcome to Salam Sisters. I'll first of all introduce Salam Sisters and then the topic and then our wonderful keynote speakers. If you are new to Salam Sisters, welcome. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is an organization that is dedicated to improving and enriching the health and well-being of Muslims all around the globe. The focus is within Muslim women. However, a lot of these Zoom calls Zoom meetings are open to the wider public so that everyone can benefit if we feel like it's a topic that will benefit everyone. So just to kind of bring it to what the Salam Sisters do, if you probably have a look on here on my it'll be very difficult to see, but those are some of the focuses of the Salam Sisters. So under that, improving and enriching the lives of women and the communities around them. We have women empowerment to give them the tools in which to do that, which is what part of today's talk is about. Quran and memorization classes are on every Tuesday and Wednesday. So Quran, tafsir and memorization, and that usually happens via WhatsApp group. You will be sent the link through that via Teams. For further details, please head over to the website or contact one of us for further details, inshallah. We also have one of the main things that underpins Salam Sisters, which is what you've all joined for today, which is the critical lecture series. And this is series 8 of that. The topic today is about mental health and well-being in general. So I'm super, super, super excited. I can see more people are joining the room. Please make sure that your mics are on mute when you join, inshallah. Right. Okay. So apart from the Quran classes and the critical lecture series, on a Sunday there is also a study circle, and once every 3 months we try to have an in-person get-together. We are here in the UK, so for those of you in the UK who are here, or those of you visiting, our next get-together will be on February the 18th. Sorry. February the 25th, inshallah, it is open to all the women who are part of the group and those outside of the group, those who are just joining. It's a potluck usually, but this time we are going to a lovely restaurant. I will have further details with regards to that later on at the very end, inshallah. So hopefully that gives you an idea of Salam Sisters and what we are all about. So it's about building that community. It's about enriching all of us with the skills that we need to be better Muslims, the community that we need to surround ourselves to be better Muslims and better people overall, inshallah. Right, so without further ado, let's begin. As I said earlier, Salam Sisters is dedicated to improving the quality of life of Muslims around the world. And a huge part of that is our mental health and well-being. And that is why this is one of the most important topics to have a look at, and this is one of the reasons why we wanted to have a critical thought series on it. And we have selected amazing keynote speakers who I hope you're all just as excited to listen to. Once I share who they are with you in detail, hopefully you will see that we have tried to bring on people who are experts in that field, inshallah, into to you or to your screens, to your computer at the convenience of your own home. And jazakallah khair to the speakers. I will get onto that later. But it is without a doubt that mental health and well-being is vital, not just to our day-to-day lives, but to our lives as Muslims, because it gives us the ability to understand and control and shift the mindset that we need in order to perform the actions we need to do. So without the right mindset, it is very, very difficult to do the things that we need to do. And sometimes it could even present roadblocks spiritually. So it's very, very important that we pay attention to that, understand how our emotions work, understand how to regulate them as well. So it is a huge part, I believe, of our deen, and we already have a lot of practices. Our 5 daily prayers, I sometimes think that one of the reasons that we have them is to constantly keep us repeating actions that bring us closer to Allah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what we're like as human beings. We need that constant reminder. We need that constant regulation. So that is one of the reasons why our mental health and good health is important to us. Right, so I'm going to get into introducing our first speaker today, and you all join me in welcoming Sister Kafaya Salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you do not know who she is, prepare yourself, because the accolades are absolutely amazing. So she's a transformation and certified personal development therapist, counselor, master neurologist practitioner, parenting expert, parenting coach, public speaker, writer, and
don't read it all. Don't read it all.
And consultant. I feel like people need to know what you do, and I think it kind of just lets them know that you are qualified for the station that you are in. And I don't think there's anything wrong in just saying, you know, how amazing you are and everything that you've done so far from what I've read. And I think these skills are important to mention, because it then leads on to what you have dedicated quite a lot of your time to and your career to, which is helping women tap into their authentic selves and live a better quality of life in all areas of their lives in accordance with their deen. And, you know, she didn't just stop there. And currently she's working with the Al Maghrib Institute Tarabiya program to bring the benefits of counseling to Muslim communities, which is so important, especially because we are presented with new, different, modern problems today. We need to start thinking of modern solutions to solve them. And how can we do that without people researching what these things are, researching our behaviors behind them, and researching how to solve them? That is why I think that work is so important, especially as well, challenges in polygyny. Now, wherever you are, with regards to polygyny, whether you are for or against, it is without a doubt that regardless, those who are in it should have support in order to create a positive framework and beneficial framework of a positive polygynous marriage. It is possible, but it will be even harder if people don't have access to the tools to make that happen. So Jazakallah khair as well for dedicating part of your time to do that. And also for mothers, she's got your back. So as I said, she is a parenting coach as well. Once again, we live in a modern world. A lot of the issues that our children are going through today, some of us don't understand because we didn't live in that time. I mean, I'm under 30. I'm under 30, that's what I'm going to say. But some of the things my 16-year-old sister says, I'm like, what? I don't get where that's coming from. So having that understanding, having that knowledge, having that balance, having someone there to guide you, coach you, counsel you through some of the challenges you're facing, someone who's already been through it, as a mum of 4, mashallah, with, I don't know if I wrote down the ages, but I think, did you say your oldest between 20 and 30 years old? So your children?
Well, now that's rolled on. So my oldest is 31 and my youngest is 20 and a little bit. Yeah.
Mashallah. So someone who's already been through it with 4 of her children. So I think it will definitely help. So without further ado, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Kafaya. Please take it away.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So just make sure I can get my screen up first, because me and technology, we don't agree. It's not sharing yet?
I think it's, yeah, I think it's sharing now.
So you can now see it, right?
Yes, we can see the PowerPoint.
So what can you see? The first page?
We can see the slides on the left. Oh, no, now it's the full screen. It's the first screen there on counseling and support services from Islamic perspective.
So I just want to say Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And
Alaikum salam.
And I feel humbly honored by Salam sisters inviting me to speak today. There is I'm not going to say anything yet. So yeah, alhamdulillah. So thank you. And I pray that, you know, Allah makes this a beneficial. Can we just make sure everybody mutes themselves, or can the moderator, you know, just mute everyone? And if anyone needs to speak, we can unmute them. So yeah, so I was just saying, alhamdulillah, you know, we're here today to talk about a very important topic. Mental health and counseling really stems from us supporting people with mental health. Now, mental health issues does not mean that we are mad or we're crazy. But we'll be talking about that a bit later on. Normally, I'd like it to be an interactive session, but this might just be a session where I might be doing a bit more talking than I should normally would like to do. And this is again because of the subject. It's just about creating this awareness within our community. And also, I'm gonna stop wherever, you know, whenever I'm told to stop, I'm gonna have to stop. And there possibly could be a part 2 to this. Because when I was doing all my research into this, alhamdulillah, I really felt I learned a bit more. I learned so much more than I already knew before this topic was given to me. So alhamdulillah for that. Okay, so before we start, this is going to be my presentation plan. So these are the things I would like to look at. And just to warn you all, I probably won't follow my slides. One, because of time, and because some of it just might not be necessary. So I'll just talk around them. So I'm not going to read everything because I'll bore myself and I bore you all. So these are the things we're going to look at. What is counseling? Conventional counseling? What is Islamic counseling? Some pioneers of Islamic counseling. What is the connection between mental health and Islam? Some myths and conceptions about counseling. Why do we need it? What are the early signs of what we call mental health illnesses? So the word mental, I think sometimes because language makes people think, oh gosh, I'm not mental. It isn't. We all, without, you know, exception, have gone through these things. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all the prophets went through it. So there is nothing to be shy about. So we will talk a little bit about how Islamic counseling, if we can get to that point, how Islamic counseling can support our mental health and the Prophet's holistic healing approach to mental health. So with the Prophet had a holistic approach to mental health. I'm doing the same things and I just want you to start having, because I want to create that mental mind shift for us today. If the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu has an approach of dealing with it, then for all of us that normally would say mental health is something to do with the West, we need to know that it's well ingrained within our religion, and our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu gave us the formula for dealing with it. The dua approach is Surah Al-Duha, and just in case I don't get there, we all know it. What I would like for us to do, the main takeaway for me today, would be understanding that mental health is for all of us, without exception. And also that's, if we look at Surah Duha, that's the surah Allah blessed the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu with when he was going through certain issues. And most of the scholars will tell you that this surah is the answer to most of our mental illness issues. So if I don't get to it, I'm already saying that now. So read about it, reflect upon it. And there's on the website, you will see detailed explanations of what each ayah means. We can't do that today because that needs a whole lecture in itself. So, introduction. I've already done some of that. So, we should all like to start with the dua of Musa alayhi salam. So, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. So, Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. And it's, oh my Lord, open my heart, make my task easy for me, and remove the knot from my tongue, so they may understand my speech. And we should always do this in terms of when we want to speak to our families at work and things like that. So this would really help us. I trip over my words a lot, and this dua really does help me. Right, so sisters, what I also want to say is that when so Allah sent Prophet Musa alayhi salam to Fir'aun. This is the dua he taught him. So if you want to face, and I don't think there's anyone as worse as Fir'aun. Putin might be coming close to that, but we just need to remember that these words are there to help us speak to people and make our speech clear. So why are we talking about mental health? I said, please, I'm not mental, because that's what most people say to me, that, okay, why are you talking to me about mental health? I'm not mental. I know. But there's a reason why I'll be telling you this. And then some statistics might help explain why. So as an icebreaker, if the moderator can bring up, because I don't know, I might press something and I know I'm going to throw the whole thing out. I just want us to spend just a couple of minutes, just because of time, to talk about, for someone to tell me or pop in the chat, or people can unmute themselves to tell me what do they know about mental illnesses, and if they can mention a few. And also, would you use counseling support services? See, I can't even get my words out, if recommended or required. We just want to get a feel for what people think. Oh, there you go. Thanks. Now, if it looks like I'm looking up, I'm using two screens. So
I think I've posted the question on the chat.
Yeah.
So if anyone would like to, oh, actually, I see a poll here. Let's see if I can.
That could work.
No, I need to go back and create another one. No, I don't think I can make a poll.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I just want us to.
Oh, we've got someone who's responded. Kazim says, illness of the mind that can result in socially, physically aberrant behaviors, or socially or physically negative behaviors. Muslima Adilani says anxiety.
Absolutely. Anyone else got anything else to say before we move on? So
any situation that causes worry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, stress. What else? And just a quick because you can't switch on the poll, it would be just nice to, if people can just put one in the chat, if they would ever use or visit a counselor.
Okay. Someone says, any issues affecting the cognitions of our mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for example, anything to do with your mind, thinking, obsession, absolutely. There's 65 of us, I think, online. Just want to see if you can put one in the chat box, if you would, approach counseling services. And I'll check again at the end of this lecture if anyone would have a change of mind. I've only got 2 hands so far.
Okay, so raise your hand.
Or let's put one in the box to be better, if they would.
Okay. Someone said not really.
And if not, so 1 if you would, 2 if you won't. Yeah.
Another 2. So we've got 1, 2, 2 1s, 3 1s, and 2 2s. So 3 people said yes. So far, 2 people have said no.
And then that continue. Okay. So I just like to move on, like I said, because of time. Now,
some people are saying it's because they don't know how, and there might be a long waiting list.
So now, true, there is a waiting list if you have to go. So the thing with therapy is people don't like to pay for it, because you're going to sit in front of someone just like me and you'll be talking to me. And most people say it's expensive. And so if you pay for it, you can pay anything between from 30 to 90 pounds per hour. And you can also get free counseling when you go on a waiting list. So I also work for a local charity, and where I live, I do 3 hours a week, and the waiting list is about 7 months long. And that is because people want it free. And sometimes we need to pay for it. Right. So quite some of us are aware of mental illnesses. So let me just talk a little bit about it. The whole point of today is just to give us some awareness of what it is. And counseling or therapy, which we call talking therapies, are only one way of treating the mental illnesses that we suffer. Sister Fatima has actually said there is a stigmatization attached to counseling, and I'll be going through those, and you're absolutely right. And the part of my work, what I'd love to focus on is just to bring that awareness to people, and then also people spotting the early signs, so then they can start making decisions as what to, as to what they do. Now, I just want to make a disclaimer. When you're coming through counseling, you come in to counseling. So the counselor gives you solutions and they work with you, but we don't prescribe medication. So there are some conditions that people will come into the therapy room to discuss with me that I can't deal with. I will then know at that point, because I truly know my limits. It might be someone that I think have got a really, really bad mental condition, and then they have to refer back to their GP, and they have to go to see a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and they will get proper medical treatment that way. So without further ado, I'm just going to be quickly talking about some statistics. And these are some things that I've come across. I know we are talking about mental health affects everybody, regardless of your race, color, religion, what have you. But because we are Muslim community, we are part of what we call a minority community. I'm just pulling up some statistics that I found online. And so different ethnic minority groups understand and talk about mental health in different ways. As one of the sisters said, it's perceived as a stigma. Refugees and asylum seekers, they have a different experience. They're marginalized a lot. And there's a lot of inequalities when it comes to accessing the services. And it talks about older Pakistani women and men who also have mental conditions, depression and anxiety. We look at South Asian women who have a higher rate of common mental health conditions in comparison to Black and white women. So it's just also important to know that within our different cultural setups, we also have different ways of viewing mental health issues, and we also have different health conditions. There's lots of alcohol issues. Now, one thing I wanted to point about, because I will be digressing as I'm speaking as well, is that within our communities, there is a high rate of alcohol abuse, drugs misuse, and all sorts of things like that. People do not come forward for help because they know are doing business, from drinking alcohol and engaging in these practices, which are harmful to the body. The reason why they're there is not because they're wanting to do it, is because of their mental health conditions. And there's something we call in therapy, self-medication. And so they've had to do that as a way of coping with the issue. So people do that through eating, through drinking, and all sorts of things. I spent a good 2.5 years working with CGL, they call Change, Grow, Live. Some people know them as Inspire, and they really deal with alcohol issues, alcohol and drug issues. And I've seen a few Muslims come to me during that time. They were shocked when they walked into the therapy room, but I'm not there to judge them. We're just there to help them. All right. So don't think we don't have it. We have LGBT, we've got transgender, because we're all human beings. So all of these conditions are going to affect us. We should stop turning a blind eye to it and think it doesn't affect us. Doesn't affect us, think about the young generation. I also want to say something that what comes to me in the therapy room. Most of the time, in the last 1 year or so, I've seen a lot of young Muslims come in to the therapy room with drug issues, alcohol issues, relationship issues, the normal day-to-day issues that anyone would experience. And we're not here to judge them. And I just want to bring attention to one of the Sahabas. I can't remember his name because this is just popped up in my head. He used to drink a lot. And when the Sahaba were going to war, they used to tie him down, right? Because they just don't want him to mess up. But the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, yes, he might be drinking a lot, but he loves Allah and he loves the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He just has a weakness. He has an illness. And I really use that hadith for so many things, because we're so quick to judge. Yes, we know we're not supposed to drink. We know we're not supposed to gamble. We know we're not supposed to have, extramarital affairs and all these kind of things, but human beings, we do them. And in counseling, counseling services will help us talk through these things to get behind what the problems are and hopefully help us to solve them. So some definitions, I might talk about those in a moment. We've got counseling, what is Islamic counseling, mental health and mental health illness. I'm whizzing through this because there's a lot to get through and there's only a little time to say or do anything. So counseling provides you a safe, confidential space for you to talk to a trained professional about your issues and your concerns. So sometimes people, so when they come in, I take me for example, and my modality is what we call person-centered counseling. And person-centered is what it actually says on the tin. It is the client is in the center. They talk about their feelings, their emotions. I guide them, ask them challenging questions, provocative questions, so they can provoke their feelings, understand why certain things are happening, which could be due to childhood trauma, abuse, many things that they would not be able to talk about. I have a woman who's just spoken to me who's been through abuse, physical, mental, sexual abuse for the last 30 years and has only been able to speak about it now. And once they do, they release the trauma from their body and they feel good. And sometimes when they don't, then I have to refer them on to other sources that can help them. So a counselor, as it says, they will not provide you with my opinions or advice or prescribe medication, but they will help find a solution to their own problem, because everybody knows themselves better than anyone else. So apart from Allah, you know yourself better than anyone else. And counseling really does help. It makes great changes in our lives if we're prepared to engage in the process. What is Islamic counseling? Islamic counseling is probably a label, but Islamic counseling is just taking all of the Western stuff. We don't change it. We don't do anything with it. And we then we bring in the principles of Islam. And I think this is what is crucial. And then we can see in the last 20 years that there has been a move to incorporating spirituality. Sometimes they call it faith-based counseling into counseling. And so when I get clients now, I make it, and when my pictures online, they can clearly see me. I'm Black, I'm a Muslim, so I'm a multicultural therapist. So I'll understand issues that certain people would not, and no disrespect to the white people, but a white counselor won't know because they're not trained to do all of that. And some of them are beginning to train to do that. So Islamic counseling, like I said, brings in the Islamic principles, and then your counselor who would work with you. I might be a Muslim counselor, but I might not be an Islamic counselor. And the difference is, I could be a Muslim, but I might not use the Islamic principles that we've been taught about within the deen to help people heal. So that's the difference there. And why is that moving? All right. Mental health. So I put it in because I know people have, sometimes it's good to put pictures up so words are just not staring you in the face. And sometimes pictures say a lot than words do. So this just briefly tells us what mental health is. It is real and something everybody has in one shape or form. And also what I want to pull out of here. And it's something we need to look after. And the deen tells us as well. Islam tells us a lot about how we need to look after our mental health. It isn't shameful. It's not a sign of weakness, because one of the biggest things in the deen of Islam would say the moment you started having mental issues or things like that, is that your iman is weak. Are you saying that the Prophet ﷺ, when he was grieving, his iman was weak? I would say Yaqub alayhi salam, when he was crying, he went blind because of missing his son Yusuf alayhi salam. Did he not have iman? When Yunus alayhi salam got so angry, he had anger issues and got swallowed by the whale. Did he have a weakness in iman? No. So those are the things we need to start asking ourselves about. It isn't a taboo. And there's a little diagram there that just for me shows a mental health condition that has a negative impact on us. And when it does, it impacts on the way we think, because we think, and in therapy, our counseling terms, we will say people have got distorted thoughts. because these things are not real. They'll just come into your head and you start thinking about them. And when real things do happen and they come into our head, we just keep, it's just like making a movie in your head. And then these thoughts will spiral and then they start affecting all parts of our body. And then we start seeing anxiety, stress, depression, and all things like that. And as parents, sometimes children gets on our nerves, we're angry, our boss gets on our nerves, and it's just, we're just not feeling great. We don't want to get out of bed. All these types of things are what we call mental issues, but it does not mean we are crazy. So this is the World Health Organization of mental health. And I'm not going to read it out because you can see it, but what I'd like to point out, it does tell us that 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 10 children experience mental illness, and many more of us know and care for people who do, right? And then again, it's talking about how mental health refers to our cognitive, behavioral, and emotional well-being. So it's all about our mental health, well-being, physical health, psychological health. It all comes together. What does Islam say about mental health? There's quite a few things here. So psychology and counseling are words that I'll probably use interchangeably here. But this is something again. So for Islam talks about that mental health and wellness are about creating a better life and a healthier connection with Allah. What I just want to point out, in the Western culture, we take God out of the equation. With Islamic counseling, we bring God into the equation. Right? So when we look at it from an Islamic perspective, it talks about our thoughts, emotions, and our behaviors. It talks about our past experiences, the way we experience the present, and the hopes and worries we have about the future. Just the same, we can't do anything about the past. We can't do anything about the future. The past is dead, the future is not yet born, but we can do something about the present moment. And then this is why in Western therapy, we try to talk about the present moment. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has taught us that as well. We deal with the present moment. And again, Islamic counseling, mental health looks at the soul, and it looks at the aspects we can see and the bits that we can't see. The bits that we can't see is talking about our nafs. And like this, I'm just skimming over it. There is so much to talk about when it comes to how Islam views and talks about mental health. And it states here that our souls are the basic elements of life, and they contribute towards our behavior, emotions, and our mental processes. Naturally, our behaviors, emotions, and thoughts can also impact our souls and spirituality as well. So when we're talking about Islamic counseling, we're talking about a holistic process that brings in all aspects that we've talked about, and it brings in religion and our spirituality as well. What are mental health disorders? And I put psychiatric illnesses here, right? So my husband's a psychiatrist, and he deals with like extreme cases like psychosis, all sorts of things that a therapist will never deal with. So if you think someone has got like severe issues and things like that, then they will need to be seen by a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and they're the ones that prescribe medication. So a mental disorder or an illness could be the behavioral or mental pattern that causes significant distress, and we said that before. The main thing is people talk about stress. It could increase death as well. And loss of autonomy is that when people just lose themselves, they just have no control over themselves. And these can feature in when they're persistent, they could be relapsing, and they could be remitting, or they occur as a single episode. And depending on the degree or the intensity of these illnesses, it depends where you go, whether you see a clinician like a psychiatrist who then prescribes medication, or you just come in to see a counselor or a therapist, and we just talk about your feelings and help you heal that way. And again, it says mental disorders are usually defined by a combination of how a person feels, perceives, or think, which we mentioned before. So some of the things are going to be repeating itself here, and that's okay. And then, so I would say like psychiatric illnesses might kind of like, these are the high-end extreme ones, will exclude normal responses like grief, behavioral, political, or religious, or societal reasons, because those can be handled by a therapist. Some statistics for you. So 1 in 5 adults live with a mental illness. That is huge. 1 in 25 adults live with a serious mental illness. I've seen lots of that. And then 50% of chronic mental illnesses start before 14 years. And that could be for so many reasons. And it tells you that 75% of the chronic illnesses start by the age of 24. And that sounds about right, because I can see most of the people that come into therapy come in as from the age about 22, 23 and so on. And it says just over 10 million people over the age of 18 have more than one addiction or mental health disorder. And we continuously seeing that in the therapy room and also in the mental health wards, psychiatric wards, they're seeing that in hospital as well. These are some more statistics about what we call the BAME, the Black, Asian, and the minority ethnic. And this could be Europeans, doesn't have to be Black, Asian, Pakistani, Indian. Could be lots of other people from different countries that have migrated, come here for different reasons. It says here that the Black Caribbean people have the highest detention under the Mental Health Act. And this is some of these statistics, I'm not going to read all of it, but just to mention them. These statistics are as they are because of the myths, the misconceptions, and the stigma around mental health. So when we start experiencing these mental health issues, there's no early intervention. What then happens is that when it becomes like such a big issue that people then go completely mental, then they're taken to, you see them in detention hospitals, like high security prisons for mental people. And because they're a danger to society, and that's because there's that lack of early intervention. So if we can create that awareness, and I'll talk a little bit later on about the early signs or warnings of that we're going through these mental health issues, which most of us know anyway. I'm just bringing this to our attention. And just to plead with us that, you know, if we understand what these early warning signs are, we can spot them in ourselves and we can spot them in people and we can spot them in our children as well. And then we can give them the help and the support that they need. We can signpost them to the right medical services that they need as well. And this is why we have high numbers there. And again, it talks about the second largest group of detention under the Mental Health Act. So again, it says there are Indian people. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because for us to know that the ethnic minority groups and religious groups suffer a lot. And there's this one, which I think is really sad, that this report from England and Wales found out that 40% of children are from these, what we call ethnic minority backgrounds. And more than a third have a diagnosed mental health problem. That is really sad. So causes of mental disorders, I'm not going to go into all of this here, but there's biopsychosocial model, which is we spoke about biological or psychological factors. Genetics, some of it we do inherit, like depression, narcissism is another thing, talk about that another day. Personality disorders, we find that some of this are generational. I think we need to put someone on mute. And we see things like autism, ADHD, all of these things, schizophrenia, and abnormal brain chemistry. And these are things that we could be born with. I just want to point out here that there's lots of environmental. Hello. Schizophrenia. Hello.
Hello, I'm just going to double check. We can still hear you, but I'll just double check who that was. I think they've been muted.
Let me just mute everyone. Yeah, okay. So I just because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't me causing that interference.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. So there's social influences like abuse, neglect, bullying, there's stress, there's traumatic events that have happened to us. And some things happen to us that we belittle that are, and they're not, they stay, we call these things that they're traumatic things that stay within the body. And by talking about them, crying, we're releasing them from the body. And then that makes our body function a bit better. And then it makes our mental health better. We have overwhelming life experiences, there's unemployment. The current economic climate is not helping. There's migration issues that affects lots of people from different minority groups. There's impulse cultures in us, because I'll show you a picture in a moment that my daughter drew. And then that is us as Muslims, because we've got the Western culture, we've got our Islamic culture, and then we've got our own culture from back home. And it's like, where do we fit? So it's just like clashes, and how do we deal with them? There's bereavement issues, there's family separations, there's parenting issues. When we talk about parenting as a whole boil game, a different game altogether, because your parents, we were raised in a different way. We're looking at why my children acting this way, right? It's because they've grown up in a different environment. We've got lots of these emotional, physical, and sexual issues, and lots of work-life balance issues. There's migration issues. I've mentioned this, and we see a lot of this on the news as well. There's identity crisis, racial discrimination. There's a lot of that. And those, I just highlighted those things because those are quite a lot of things, the big things that really affect us even as Muslims. We've spoken about drug use, chronic illnesses, you've got HIV, diabetes, cancers, all those sort of things cause issues for us. And even if we have people that have got these illnesses, it can also affect the people who look after them, because they will also need counseling as well. There seems to be a delay. Right, some signs of illnesses. So on the right, you've got a picture that just talks about them all, and then some that shows these expressions. So sometimes when we're experiencing, we feel anxious, we're worried, we feel depressed, we feel sad. There's always these emotional outbursts. We get irritated for no reason. There's changes in weight. Sometimes we eat more, or we don't eat at all. And we feel there's guilt, there's shame. There's all sorts of reasons, and we don't sleep. And there's also suicide, which I really want to say is really important. We know we say suicide is not allowed in Islam, but yes, Muslims do commit suicide for various reasons, because there's a mental illness. So if you spot or you think that anybody's at harm or risk of suicide, we need to report that to the right authorities. Early warning signs. I've just highlighted a few that I would just like to talk about. Is eating or sleeping too much, having low or no energy. You know, sometimes when I'm completely drained, I'm exhausted, unexplained body aches and pains, where we just say sometimes my body just aches, just feeling helpless or hopeless, that why am I here? Not even in my purpose in life. There's smoking, drinking, and using drugs. Now I want to go back to eating. Eating is a way that, because eating doesn't cause as much visual or damage to the brain as drinking and using drugs do, but eating is also a problem, because people use that to what we call self-medicate themselves to make themselves feel better. We call this emotional eating. Sometimes we feel confused, forgetful, on edge, angry, upset, worried, and all these things that we've spoken about already. So sometimes we yell, we can't get certain thoughts and memories out of our heads. Sometimes we hear voices, or we believe we're seeing things, which is all true. And then there's self-harm. Lots of people do self-harm by cutting themselves and doing all sorts of things, because that's just the way they feel they can cope with the pain that they're going through. And sometimes we can't even perform. We're so crippled that we can't even perform our normal day-to-day tasks. We can't take our kids to school. We can't even get out of bed to go to work, let alone take our kids to school. So there's lots of, so these are the common types of mental disorders. I'm just going to mention them, and I've got quite a few slides, but I'm going to skip through all those slides because those slides.
Sorry, Sister Kafaya, just to let you know, we have about 10 more minutes.
I know,
left.
I've got my time. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, Pam.
So that's right. So we've got depression, we've got panic disorder, we've got post-traumatic stress disorder, which I really love. I specialize in that a lot now, and dementia, because these traumatic these traumas, I can't get my words out. These traumas affect us in so many ways, and it's really nice just talking to people, helping them understand that there's bipolar disorder and things like that. So I'm going to skip through that. So what is anxiety orders? We've got what we call generalized anxiety, there's panic disorder, and there's post-traumatic stress disorder, which I've just spoke about now. Depression, 264 million people suffer globally, so I'm going to jump that. Different type of mood disorders. Bipolar affects about 45 million people worldwide. And you can see what happens. People have irritable moods. There's a need for sleep and things like that. There's these kind of psychosis and all these ones on here. These are the ones that really need more like clinical or proper professional intervention. Personality disorders, I'm not going to go into that. Dementia, we might know someone or have heard of it. It happens when people are, it's memory loss. It affects their memory. They forget, certain people forget things. And this again affects globally 50 million people. There's childhood psychiatric disorders as well. And we've got things like autism, ADHD, and there's plenty of eating disorders that I've mentioned before. There's gambling, substance misuse. Again, it's just as repeating these things that we've already. And just to point out that things like immigration status, working illegally, not having enough funds to qualify for free NHS care, and also being homesick, especially if we've migrated and we've left people back home, things like that. Poor work-life balance and lots of health issues going untreated because we don't even know what to do about them. And this is how mental illness manifests its way in people, which we've already spoken about, so I'm going to skip that one. And how do you manage them? There's different ways of managing them, which I have been speaking about, but just to mention the key ones that are important for us here is about talking therapies, because that's what I specialize in. And there's lots of treatment from the Quran and the Hadith. What have some Muslims said? You can see this on the screen, that having been through therapy, Islamic counseling, this is some of the comments that they have made. And one says, I'm happy that I can live my life with religion and that I've got the support of the teachings from the Quran. And the other one says, my counselor helped me reflect on the fact that the Quran and the Sunnah actually acknowledge there is depression, there is grief, there is sorrow, and there is hardship upon you, and things like that. Some of the scenarios that, I put this down because some of these are some of the scenarios that we would like to discuss in the therapy room. But if we're going to a therapist that doesn't understand our religion or our cultural background, it will be very difficult to discuss things like having a second and third mom. There I'm referring to polygyny. My husband's taken on a second wife. We've got single parents, and some Muslims have problems because they're gay, they're lesbians, and they don't know who to speak to about it. Why do we require counseling services? I might skip this because, like I said, there's probably going to be there must be a part 2 to this. So why do we require counseling? I think it's all to do with all the issues that I've already mentioned. So I'm going to skip that. Why do we not access the current services that are available? One of the main reasons is the white council wouldn't understand the cultural, religious, or racial reasons that's leading me to seek counseling. There's prejudice, there's racism, and lacking confidentiality, because sometimes we say something and then everybody knows your business. So we rather keep everything hush hush. And also, there's also the fear that the therapist might know somebody in their family. And there's language issues as well. And also within the community, there's the lack of knowledge of the appropriate services. And some people prefer just to speak to their scholars and their imams. And they're really overloaded. Also to point out, some scholars and imams, most of them are not trained as therapists, but they do some training so they can deal with counseling issues. But really, to take that weight off them, it's nice to go and see a therapist. Identity issues, just briefly to mention this. This is the picture I said my daughter drew, and it's something to talk about later, where she drew herself as a Muslim, as a white person, that's the culture, and as an African. So I always like that to describe, and this is what some of us go through. These are 4 people. Now, I'm not going to talk about them because of time, but it's just to bring to your awareness, this is just to touch the surface, that during the 8th and the 15th century, there were Muslim health pioneers that were psychiatrists, psychologists, and they wrote books. And did you know that the world's first psychiatric hospital was founded by a Muslim? So this shows that we as Muslims recognize that there's mental illness, mental conditions, and this dates back to the time of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but we've kind of lost that along the way and believe that it belongs to the West. So 1,000 years ago, Muslims were leading frontiers in medicine and use innovations and different therapeutic techniques that are now considered modern. A lot to think about now. So I'm not going to go into these details, but Islam and mental health. Islam is a preventive religion. It's not a reactive religion. And in Allah tells us and prescribes so many things in the Quran on how we can promote wellness in our lives. We can do this in a more detailed session at another time. Mental health and spirituality. We know religiosity and spirituality has emerged as an extremely beneficial factor in preventing and managing and coping with emotional and psychological and physical struggles, which we see mentioned a lot in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When we talk about treatment from an Islamic perspective, we see the hadith that Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has said that there is not an illness that Allah has not sent down a cure. And the only cure that there isn't a cure for is death. And in ways we can overcome this, again, is through medication, counseling, and psychotherapy. And we know healing is possible from an Islamic perspective, providing hope and optimism. So transformation. So transformation is all about one verse of the Quran for me, that Allah will not change the condition of people until we're ready to change what is within ourselves. So it's our choice on how we choose to deal with the situation and our responsibility and how we deal with our tests. Because Allah has told us, and I can't get to that today, but Allah has given us all these tests. And it's, we know, because He said He's created us with tests, and He's also given us ways on how we can deal with them. So Allah created each of us with emotions, and struggling with feelings is normal, right? But emotions do not excuse the way we behave. So the Prophet ﷺ said, the strong person is not the one who has physical strength, but the person is strong if he can control his anger. Again, there's lots around that. I'm not going to discuss that. Why is it important from an Islamic perspective? I'll just mention one of the hadiths, that you will not be given anything after testimony of faith, like good health. So I ask Allah for good health. So this is an indication of why it's important. Mental health is important. And it's needed for us to live our best way possible so we can worship and connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to skip that, but I want to mention that the stages of our nafs, which is also self. And if you ever study counseling, the emphasis is on self. And I want to say this is already in the Quran. I'm not going to talk about them, but I'm sure we've all seen this. Nafs al-mara, we've seen lawama, and we've seen mutma'ina. If not, it's in the Quran. Prophets had mental issues. I've talked about this before. And we see that Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he's lost his children, died before when he was alive. So there's bereavement. The year of sadness when he lost his wife. And all the grief, the torment, all that he went through and during the period of Taif. Yaqub alayhi salam, I mentioned him earlier on. I'm just going to skip that. I've spoken about some of the misconceptions. And the other thing I want to say is that as Muslims, we do suffer from things like sihr, which is magic, jinns, possession, and evil spirits. They do exist. And there's ways of dealing with them. But sometimes we pin it on magic, jinn, and evil spirits, but that is not always the case. We also need to search for other alternative ways rather than just blame it on these things. So many myths, I've mentioned some already, like things like saying counseling is for women because they gossip and backbite. I don't have a problem. So once I read the Quran, I'll be fine. We said mental issues are a sign of weakness, which is not true. And there's some things about mental illness within the British community, and I've mentioned this already, so I'm going to skip that. I'm going to skip that as well. And as Muslims, our lifestyle, again, how can a Muslim counselor support you? I'll just say this quickly and I'll probably end here. And like I said, there's more to say, but I'll have to stop here because of time. A Muslim counselor understands, you know, our worldview and how important the Quran and Sunnah is for our well-being. So therefore, he or she will help us with some of the verses of the Quran and the Hadith, and just to remind us of certain things and how we can heal ourselves by using this. Because there are many therapeutic practices within Islam, which I haven't got time to go into, but I'll mention a few. Things like prayer, just when you look at meditation, we could pray because we're in that position of praying. We know we're in the position of sujood. We're speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us. Supplication and fasting helps us a lot. And fasting has so many health benefits. We can see now people talking about intermittent fasting, people talking about the 5.2 fasting, the 1 meal a day, and people have completely healed in so many ways by just fasting. And there's so much literature, YouTube videos about it. It's reversed cancer, it's fasting really reverses type 1 diabetes. There's a guy called Jason Fung, he specializes in that. And he has also said that not one single client of his has ever needed surgery after they've lost a lot of weight through fasting. So there's lots of benefits in fasting. So lots of things that the Western world is talking about now is already in our religion. We just need to find it. So that's what I think I would say there, because I've run out of time, have I?
Yes, you have. But if you have one last closing sentence, go ahead, inshallah, and then I will kind of give a roundup and a brief summary before we go to our next speaker, inshallah.
Okay, so I'll just end on saying that once we can acknowledge the importance of mental health, it tells us in Surah Baqarah so you can take a picture of that if you want, and turn to Allah, because Allah says, if you call me, I will respond to you. And like I said, I'm just going to stop there and carry on another time. But Surahs Rahman and Surah Duha are really very good for us as well. And so again, I hope that's given you a little insight into counseling awareness, types of illnesses, and once we can spot those, seek the help that is needed. But everything we need is ready in our religion. But inshallah, hopefully I can be back to do a bit more. So, and Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair, Sisa Kafaya, for that very enlightening and insightful lecture seminar on mental health and the importance. I learned a lot of new things, especially where I never made that link that a lot of prophets had themselves gone through mental health issues, and the way you were able to word that, especially with regards to how mental health does not always equal low iman, because oftentimes what is being said is that your iman is low, your mental health is poor because your iman is low. But if that was the case, then human beings would not go through any hardships. Allah has created us, and like you said, he's given us our own jihad to fight for, and whatever anyone's jihad is, that's between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but then that does not mean that they are weak in iman. So jazakallah khair for that was so beneficial. And to everybody else that has been sharing with their friends, with their families, we have about 87 participants listening in. Thank you so much. Please, whatever you're learning today, take it with you and share it with your loved ones, because the only way that this can impact our communities is not just if we implement it ourselves, but give other people in our communities access to this type of information. Because as Sister Kafaya said, we are going through a lot of modern issues. Turning a blind eye to them is not going to fix it at all. So if you see that your tap is broken and the water is running out, you're not just going to sit there and think, okay, okay, let me just pray it away and it will stop. Allah says, make dua and also tie your camel. So let's make sure that we are trying to tie our camel within our community. And if you would like the slides, I know I would, there is a link to the email to send it to in the chat box. If you just have a look through the chat box, it was posted by Ifeni Gabriel. I'm sorry if I didn't say your name properly, but the email is gaifonli9@gmail.com. There are some questions that are coming through. Inshallah, we will address this right at the very end after our second keynote speaker has spoken. But just a quick summary, if you've just joined us and missed it, we've just talked about mental health in Islam, the many issues that plague us as a Muslim society. Mental health is very much real, but it does not mean you're mental as people like to think about it. I know that I have a culture where, you know, when someone is mental, if that's the word, they're kind of outcasted from society. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are beyond help. And it's important that we seek access and we seek help, especially from those who share the same faith as us, because they will have the same goal as us, which is to help us get to Jannah, inshallah, and to remove those roadblocks within our lives that are preventing us from showing up spiritually as fully as we can, that are preventing us from acting in a way that we know is beneficial for us and our environment, inshallah. Especially, you know, can't remember what it is you said that just stayed with me. Islam is a preventative religion, not a reactive religion. That's what's staying with me. It is a religion that seeks to prevent rather than just react. So we don't let something get too bad and then we change, and then we try and do something about it. So that's why I think it's very, very important that we're all seeking to prevent those things rather than just reacting to them when they happen. Let me have a look. People are saying thank you very much in the chat box, Sister Kafaya. Jazakallah khair. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. And as well, can you all, you can go to salamsisters.co.uk as well to have a further look at what we have on there. Sister Kafaya, if anyone wanted to reach you for whatever reasons, what are your contact details and what services do you offer?
So reach me, tell me, all I offer is what you've seen there. To do counseling, coaching, parenting. It's, you know, just let me know what it is and then I tell you if I can help you. But you can reach me at kafaya@gmail.com. Okay, so it's kafaya@gmail.com. So for everyone else who is looking to reach her, I think if someone could just help me type that email in the. Thank you very much. Oh, so you already have. Thank you very much. So that is the email. Write it down in your notebooks if you haven't already. Right, without further ado, just because of time, and I want to give you all time to be able to have your questions answered later on at the end, I want to introduce our next speaker. And once again, it's just the lineup is absolutely amazing. It is Coach Yet. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm just going to do a little bit of an introduction. Coach Yet is a business, risk and project management professional across multidisciplinary corporate environments. She's part of the senior management team at TSL Logistics Limited, a Nigerian-owned multinational with operations in Ghana, where she heads the global risk management department with the governance and compliance division. She is the chief strategy officer at Emoa Foundation in Ghana, an NGO based in Ghana, which seeks to empower the Muslim community in Ghana by providing personal development, technical and job skills, and vocational training to underprivileged communities. She serves as secretary for Muharram Sisters, an NGO that supports correctional centers and prisons in southwest Nigeria. And I also have to say once again,
both of our keynote speakers working in areas which conventionally are not advertised, that Muslims can work in and Muslims can change, especially you know, when we're talking about prison. And it's very important that we don't let other Muslims go. I'm just remembering what Sister Kafaya was saying about the man who was drunk and they were trying to help him, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Is the man is not weak, he's just you know, he has an illness." So not to leave people and leave other Muslims to the wayside if there is something that we can do about it. So Jazakallah khair for the work that you do there. She's also a well-being coach and the lead coach at Life Gems by Yet, coaching and outfit born out of her passion for offering her service to humanity with a lifelong aspiration to build harmony and make a meaningful difference in the lives of everybody she encounters, often sharing impactful gems and insightful resources and information across her network from most of the talks she listens to or articles that she finds interesting. So once again, another very, very knowledgeable expert on the topic she's about to speak to us today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Coach Yetz. I think you're on mute.
Okay. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Rahma, for the introduction. And thank you so much, Sister Kafaya, for your presentation. I'm thankful for this opportunity to give my voice or lend my voice to this important cause, which couldn't have been better timed than now. Thinking about what's going on around us these days and all of that, the suicide rates. Of course, Sister Kafaya has covered most of all of those issues. So I'll start now. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. It turns out that we may have other people from other faiths on this call, and I would like to honor them and recognize them and appreciate them. We thank Allah, we are one. I appreciate, because this topic is one that cuts across faith, and it's really about humanity. Humanity first before our religion, humanity first before anything. And that's an important thing that I would like to focus on as well. So I'd like to start my talk by saying, praise be to Allah. We praise him, we seek his help and his forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evils of our souls and our misdeeds. Whomever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whomever Allah leads astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, alone without partners unto him. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a slave and messenger, and pray that may Allah's peace and blessings be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, companions, and those who follow him until the day of judgment. O Allah, expand for me my breast with assurance, and ease for me my task, and untie the knot from my tongue. Amen. Thank you very much. I'm not very conversant with the Arabic language, and I think that it's best to speak in a language that people can relate to, which is the reason why I'll choose to speak, say it in English. Please pardon my, we wouldn't want to restrict it to the Arabic language alone. So I'll just start to share my screen now. Thank you so much for having me. Just a moment, I'll just pull that up. One moment, I'm doing just that right away. Here you go. Here is my screen. I hope you can see the screen now, please. Can you please confirm you can see my screen? Thank you.
We can see your screen and we can
Awesome.
hear you very clearly, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah, awesome. Thank you very much. So I came along with some seats for some people that may not have seats, and here you are. So alhamdulillah that I'm able to speak around using coaching as a tool to support our well-being and to live a life that you dream about. Interestingly, this coaching gig came about as I would say to my friends that when you're not given a seat, of course, there's a general saying that says that when you're not given a seat at the table, then you take your own seat along and put yourself there. And that's what I am doing with this opportunity. Of course, we all want more. We want to optimize the quality of lives that we live. And so this has always been something that is really close to my heart for a long time. And sometime during COVID, I participated in a peer coaching session where I had to coach someone, and I was also coached for a period of 6 months. It was a peer coaching. I had no training as a coach. And in addition to that, then I took a life coaching certification exams. And before then, there's always been the desire to want more, to learn more, to be more. And so here I am today. I'll say that Allah has finally granted my prayers, my dua. Of course, they will tell you that prayers are always granted. And I thank him for this. And I do thank all of the people that have contributed to where I am today, either they know it or not. The angels that, angels do not need, or heroes and heroines, they don't need to wear capes. You know, they are amongst us if we take our time to be present to look for them, because what we focus on is what grows. So here is the outline for my conversation this afternoon. Just, talk more about who I am. And I think that Rahma has done a bit of justice to that. And in addition to that, I'll say that I'll talk about what drives my interest, why I do what I do, how I've decided to own my story, how I transformed my most painful challenge into my greatest blessing, one of which is this coaching opportunity that we are opportunity to listen to this afternoon, and the gems that are found, that I have found beneath my own breakdown, my breakthrough, how I chose to rewrite my story, my journey of now and my future, and my purpose, and an understanding of who a coach is, what forms coaching could come in, what does a coach do, and what the differences are. And then we talk about the key takeaways and then the key call for action. In addition to what Rahma mentioned, I'm a mom to 2 teenage sons, alhamdulillah, who live with me here in Ghana. I'm a daughter, of course, and blessed to have, I've been raised by my lively, amazing, funny, and wise aunt, who were both civil servants when my dad and my mom separated when I was only 2 years of age. And so I'm thankful for where I am today. I'm also a sister. I'm the first child of my mom and the only issue of my dad from her. And there are 11 of my dad's children, and I happen to be number 10 of those. So it's really interesting, all of what and how that I've been able to navigate life up until now. And yes, I think that Rama mentioned my professional qualification together with how I volunteer. And of course, I'm a key member of Salam Sisters, alhamdulillah. I got to know about Salam Sisters, must have been in 2018 or 2017. And it was just by chance. And I mean, you know, when Allah is ready to take care of you, it just starts to orchestrate things in your favor. Sometimes when you don't even pursue it actively, but he sees your intention, he knows what your strives are or what your challenges are, and then he just connects you with your destiny makers, like one of my friends would say. And so I think that's another type of prayer that we should pray, to talk about Allah connecting us with our destiny makers. I enjoy reading, I enjoy photography. My friends say that I'm a memories treasurer. I like to write. I write, and in writing, I'm able to unpack a lot of things. It takes me out of living in my head, and I think on paper. I mean, I've got a whiteboard at home. I've got whiteboards in my office. By my bedside, I've got pens and paper, and I keep writing. I enjoy cooking, and I enjoy connecting with people and connecting people, and I do enjoy traveling, even though I've not been to a lot of places, but I know that that's about to change, inshallah. Of course, I have interest in advocacy, and advocacy in parenting, in parenting issues. Alhamdulillah, my teenage sons are 18 and 16 now. And so I'm really passionate when it comes to parenting issues or children matters. that sometimes I'll be teased as saying that in my first life, I think that I suffered from lack of children, such that now, anytime I talk about children, I'm jumping and all of that. Alhamdulillah for the gift of motherhood. May Allah bless all of those that are looking for the fruit of the womb. And may Allah bless all our mothers and bless all our children and bless all our progeny until the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. Amen. I do have interest in talking about professionalism in the corporate space, leadership, work ethics, personal effectiveness, computer literacy, and clothing for the needy. Clothing for the needy is one of the programs that is really close to my heart here in Ghana. And what we do, or what I lead, or how I lead that, is I collect clothes from my friends, from their children, and all of the toys, books, and all of those things. We put it together and we send it to people that are in need of that. Because I realize that some of us, we buy and we buy and buy, and I'm guilty as well. And I'll say again that I'm a recovering codependent. You may wonder what that language is. I'm just learning some of this language now. I will say that I'm a core people pleaser. I'm a rescuer, and I'm an enabler. I enable people in their funny behaviors, so to speak. And now I'm learning healthier ways of living, and I'm trying to find myself after I survived an abusive marriage after 17 years. So here I am. Brené Brown would always say that you can choose to own your story and let your story define you, or you can choose to own it and be the one to be the author of your story. So I chose to own my story, and in writing my story, I would say some of the struggles that I encountered. Of course, there is the childhood trauma from coping, and of course, I developed all of that. I had to cope and I had to survive, otherwise I'll probably be dead by now. And I thank Allah for preserving my life, because I know that He has a purpose for my living today. I suffered from cognitive dissonance. I lost myself to the marriage. Now I'm discovering who I truly am after the divorce, or after separating or uncoupling from that union. And I'm trying to discover who I truly am, recover my self-worth and what I want from life. And in that 17 years, I'm not going to dwell so much on the struggles, because as a coach and as where I understand today, we need to live more from the standpoint of our now and our future, and then look back with the lessons that we are able to take away from it. I was really desperate to stay married, because marriage is something that I was really big on. Of course, I didn't want to repeat the pattern that my mom had suffered. You know how it is, the stigma of being divorced. And so I kept holding on with all I had. I became a beggar for love. My brothers will say I'm abokoku. For those that understand Yoruba, meaning I will die after a man or die after a husband. And then I continue to give my best to my children in spite of all of the struggles, my career, my friends, my relationships. I didn't think I had a voice. I couldn't speak up because I didn't think that it was necessary. Of course, there's the thing around the marriage institution where they'll tell you are supposed to stay married, persevere, withstand the troubles. In marriage, you're supposed to, that is how you will enjoy the fruits of your labor. So just keep taking on the abuse in whatever shape or form. And in this period, it was really difficult for me to accept my reality. I was resisting. And in Islam, as a Muslim, Islam is peace, and a Muslim is someone that totally surrenders, someone that totally submits. And I was resisting. It was difficult for me to come to terms with the fact that this is the best that I could make of my life, knowing that I had a lot of dreams as a child. And up until now, the dreams I had that I flowed with were dreams that I had as a child, of course, way before my marriage. And of course, I kept on walking on eggshells. I kept on shrinking myself, dimming my light. I couldn't put to words what I was going through. Sometimes my children would encounter the brunt of my abusers' rage and anger. And they would also witness some of the devaluing and demeaning action towards me. So how did I transform my most painful challenge into my greatest blessing? The decision. I call it the decision because we all have the power within us to change our lives. Most of us are used to outsourcing that power. We forget that we have the power within us. I mean, I didn't know that I had that kind of power within me until I took a plunge. I was really afraid. Although I had a longing for more, I desired more. There was a lot of discontent, of course. I knew that there must be a better way to live than the kind of life I was living. And I then finally decided to make a choice, to yield to that quiet whispers. And I called that quiet whispers that kept nudging me to say, Yetunde, there's more to life than the life you're living. And I yielded to that. And I just opened up an inch to the possibility of what could be. I didn't know what was going to be on the other side, but I just said to myself, I needed to take action. Of course, I was running away from myself. And then I engaged a therapist and I started to plan my exit. And I didn't just engage a therapist because I knew that was what I needed. I mean, I had the support of very good friends sisters here in Ghana, and alhamdulillah for the gift of sisterhood. And it was one of those conversations that, I mean, of course, you'll keep ranting and talking. Most of us, we are used to talking about a situation that we do not have control over, or we feel powerless, we feel helpless. And she said to me, would you want to talk to a therapist? And I said, why would I need one? And I didn't contact that therapist until maybe about a month after that conversation when I was ready. And till now, I say to people that no one needs to push you to do what you need to do. You are the only one that will know what you want to do, and you will do what you need to do. No one needs to push you. One of my former bosses in the bank where I used to work would say, if you want to jump, you jump. Do not let anybody push you. Around that same time, I was opportune to listen to Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I finally decided to write my statement of declaration in March of 2022, just before COVID hit. And then in July of 2022, I filed for a divorce, and of course, still going through the process. And I'm sure some of you may be able to imagine what that would entail. All of the bouts of confusion, depression, low self-esteem, and all of that. So here are some of the gems that I got from my breakthrough, or from my breakdown, my breakthrough. I've been able to transform those challenges to something more, to something better. And if not for the experience, I probably would not be able to speak to an audience as big as this today. I learned a whole lot. I got an insight. I gained a lot of knowledge. I started to attend, of course, you cannot be in therapy forever. Sister Kafaya must have mentioned that, because we know that therapy is time-based. It costs a whole lot, an arm and a leg, if you can afford it. Alhamdulillah, I was able to afford it for some time. I got therapists for myself. I got therapists for my children, but it wasn't sustainable. And I said to myself, I'm going to help myself out of this situation. How do I help myself? I started to read. I started to attend seminars, webinars. I started to interact with, Allah knows how he plans things, again, like I said. And I had the gift from Allah to interact with international coaches and experts in the field of psychology, psychiatry. I was able to engage with loads of people. And then I realized that I wasn't alone in this situation. And all of this exposed me to different areas about codependency, abuse, either it's physical, emotional, spiritual, conscious living, self-mastery, parenting, healing from trauma, limiting beliefs, money issues, prosperity, amongst other issues. And there was a lot more to my breakdown. Then there was always the desire to offer help to people that are seeking to transform their lives and to live the life of their dreams. and with a focus on empowering mindsets that will help them heal their emotional scars and gain faith in themselves to create a new life. Because I always joke around the fact that if we understand the kind of God that we serve, then we would not limit ourselves to what we ask of him. The God we serve is a big God, and coming to that understanding, I started to open myself up more to ask for more from life, and somehow things started to fall into place. And I then started to rewrite my story. And here is one of the bits from rewriting my story. There's the bit of the Life Gems by Yates Coaching, which you're opportunity to listen to today. I decided to take responsibility for myself and for my role in allowing the abuse. Basically, I shifted myself from victimhood to being a victor. I could always say, oh, they did this to me, they did this to me, they did this to me. How long will I do that for? I needed to empower myself and take responsibility for my situation. That does not excuse any of what had happened, but I say I need to own up to my part in the role. Like they say, it takes two. And then I came to the realization that my story, it has value. And how did I come to that realization? I was able to listen to Les Brown's interview during my participation in the recent Rocking Your Life at Any Age Summit in November. And of course, before this November, February up until maybe July or August of last year was a really, really dark time of my life. That is not to say I hadn't even experienced dark times. I mean, it comes and goes, there are bouts of it, and then it kind of like swings around like a pendulum. And I think that Sister Kafaya mentioned something about our thoughts. I allowed my thoughts to hijack me, and it took me so far away from who I am or who I thought I was, and I felt so disconnected. And I remember going to one of my sisters here in Ghana, and when I saw her, I said, I didn't know who I was anymore. She said, Yetunde, all you need, you don't need to know who you are. Just be present in this moment. You don't need to know who you are. Just take one step at a time and just breathe and just be, you know? And it was this realization from the fact that I know that my story has value, that I decided to share my story with the world. Because again, like Maya Angelou said, there's nothing as painful as an untold story. And in rewriting my story again, I was able to unravel and gradually release my purpose like a seed, allowing it to germinate. And now the decision to provide this service to every part of humanity, young, old, male, female, parents, students, and offering them tools from my recovery toolbox, because I didn't even know that I was sitting on a gold mine of toolbox that you could use to live your life. Now I view my world, or the world, as that of humanity first, because we only gain first because we gain because no one needs to suffer. I mean, why would anyone need to suffer? I've gone through this. No one needs to go through it, even though I do not need to I can't pull anyone to not go through this. We need to make that choices on our own. It's an individual choice. And, but I realized that one has not truly lived until our lives have become the stars and the sunshine of someone else. So I offer myself as a form of star and sunshine, alhamdulillah. And in rewriting my story again, I say that the mass of men, they lead lives of quiet desperation, and they go to their grave with the song in them. I say to myself that I want to choose to be an exception. And the exception to that is to sing my song fully, so I can go to the grave empty, and there's lightness in my wings so that I can travel light back to my maker, fulfilling the reasons why I was put on earth. And so my purpose really is to share my story of courage, and we all have that within us, and to uncover what is within. And in uncovering what is within is to unwrap the gifts, the gems that lie beneath our sorry situation, which presents itself at different times, and decision to turn adversity into advantage for me, and the decision to turn my wounds into wisdom, because no one needs to suffer again. And here I am sharing some of my gifts and talents with the world to promote the growth of diverse category of people and help them to fulfill their dreams, to become the people that they are created to be and they have longed to be. So, I mean, I want to offer something of value that could transform people's lives and to provide support in the process of providing these services to humanity. I'm providing the same support to myself first, because like they say, we all learn we all teach what we need to learn. So as I go along, I'm learning as well, and I'm getting better at this. And again, I mean, this purpose is also in saying that again, is to say that there's a lot of confusion, self-doubt, making decisions, paving the path towards realization of dreams. And of course, all of this requires self-discipline, knowledge, awareness, and support. And to the topic of the day, we need guidance. And the guidance we need does not necessarily have to be gotten from our loved ones. That guidance, we can get that guidance and support from different forms. Of course, Sister Kafaya has talked about therapy, counseling, mentoring, teaching, and coaching. And so to speak to the issue around being a life coach, specializing in well-being coach, life coach, of course, is the general umbrella for talking about to address the blocks and challenges that one may encounter in relationships, our jobs, our finances, and a wide range of, there are a wide range of life coaches. You could have a business coach, a career coach, a celebrity coach, community coach, executive coach, global coach, life coach, narrative coach, sports coach, health coach, and of course, well-being coach. And each of these forms of support, they are unique in themselves. And the uniqueness of them, in some instances, you may need to combine one or more of these forms of support to achieve an objective. And sometimes there's an overlap in the objectives of counseling and life coaching, because the ultimate outcome is to bring about positive changes. And both of these professions explore barriers to effectiveness. I mean, what is in the way? What is a block? What is standing in the way of achieving your dream? Counselors sometimes utilize coaching skills, but there are differences. So I'd like to share my understanding of who a coach is and what a coach does. Basically,
sorry to interrupt, Coach. Yes, I'm just mindful of time to give people opportunity to ask questions. But go. I think we can. If we can, you can have 2 more minutes, I guess, to go ahead and go and share the next slide, inshallah.
I'm doing that now. So basically, a coach supports you to achieve your health goal and your total wholeness. It's about helping people make a change. As with therapy, coaching engagement is for a limited period, and it focuses on clarifying your goals, formulating the action plan, we being able to hold you accountable for your progress, and providing the support structure that you may need. I'll go on to say that we are trained to ask a lot of questions, and we follow through on our commitments. And understanding the differences, counseling, you focus on helping a client to move from a dysfunctional to a functional or improved state of well-being. And for counseling, it aims to heal and to treat. There's mentoring, of course, a mentor, and the relationship between a mentor and a mentee is also different. And it is more informal because there's a less form of engagement. You can mentor someone, you will usually mentor someone that wants to be or follow the path of maybe career or your life. So mentoring involves an individual with expertise or seniority in a particular field, supporting the development of growth of a more junior person in an informal manner. Again, I came across this recently to talk about what a coach talks to you about, what a mentor does, and who a sponsor could be. For example, a coach who drives the relationship in the coaching space. You and your coach are responsible for the relationship. You can reach out to your coach when you need to, but your coach can also reach out to you. Basically, the action that a coach takes is to provide development feedback outside the formal performance evaluation system, and then a mentor, and then and to round up is to say what I do as a well-being coach. As a coach, I can help and to support different people from different walks of life without necessarily being a mainstream expert or focusing on a specific type of coaching. Why do you need a coach? Everybody needs a coach. Why not? We all need people to give us feedback, and that's how we improve. I mean, Bill Gates said that. Who doesn't want to follow what Bill Gates is saying? Of course, please don't take me on that. I'm just saying that lightly. We all know that the world is full of people that are struggling with stress, financial strain, health issues, relationship difficulties, and a lot more. So people need life coaches to empower them to rise above all of these struggles and to create lives that fill them with energy, and all of that. When I was speaking to my coach around the time that I was to start my first debut of coaching, on that particular evening, he asked me, why do you need a coach when you could sort things out from yourself? I mean, you can ask people, you can talk to people. And I mean, that was a very interesting question. And I said to him, well, someone has been there before. Why don't I ask for help or get the help of someone that knows how to get there? And it is not as if you will not get to your destination, but you need a coach to make that time period shorter. So you need a coach, someone to hold your hand, to guide you along the way. Of course, we can talk to our best friend about how we feel, but a coach won't talk to you like that. Your friends will prioritize your happiness, your comfort, and their own safety. But as a coach, I'll prioritize your growth and your clarity at the expense of my popularity. I do not need to be popular. We are not the same. As a coach, while speaking to you, whilst hearing you speak, I can discern some reasoning, adjust perceptions, shed light on some blind spots, and widen some neural filters. So that's the reason why people would get a coach. And why not? I mean, it lets you have real-time awareness of others' thoughts and fears that you did not have to take as your own. When you learn from a coach, you recognize and interrupt some old thought patterns, which is the conditioning from our childhood up until now. So it will take a lot longer to reprogram and rewire that kind of thinking. It enables you to stop being defensive, then you can get more curious, you know. And so I'll round up by saying that coaching is one of the many healthy ways to shift from a breakdown to a breakthrough. And in some of the many, many life challenges that we may encounter in life. And it is a way to improve our way of living. And I'll encourage people to sign up for a class to learn more about this and other concepts. Thank you very much, Rama. I hope I'm not too over time that I plan to have this conversation. Thank you everyone for participating and listening in. And that will be all for now until any questions come my way. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Coach. Yes, I think if you look at the chat box, a lot of people have found this session very inspirational and very beneficial. I think you've inspired a lot of people to push through their challenges and seek the help that they need. I think that people hopefully now understand or have a better understanding of what coaching is and what coaching entails and how that can help them, as well as counseling. So Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. Do stay on. We have not finished with your amazingness yet, and Sister Kafaya's as well. We now want to open it up to the audience to ask questions, but just bear in mind, just so we give other people an opportunity to be able to ask, I would ask that those sessions be kept as short as possible. We have roughly 15 minutes left. Remember, you have hopefully the contact details of Coach Yet and Sister Kafaya. So if you feel like it's something very, very extensive and you want to go into more detail please feel free to reach out to them via their contact details that they have shared. We will be taking, inshallah, 3 questions from people who want to unmic themselves. So raise your hands first, and then inshallah we will go through the chat and see if there are any other questions. So it's the first 3 hands up. They get to ask their question to either Coach Yetz or Sister Kafaya, or both of them. So if you would like to ask a question, please feel free to raise your hand, and then inshallah we will unmute. So it's just the first 3 people. Not seeing any hands going up or hands being raised, maybe because I'm not the host. Would anyone like to ask a question? Just raise your hand and then unmute yourself, inshallah. Raise your hand and then I will see and then unmute you.
So how do I raise my hand?
Oh, who was trying to raise? Is it Sister Rahima?
Fire.
Sister Kafaya, do you want to ask a question to Coach Yetz?
I do, and I'm just struggling. Where do I find? Right, I need
Go
to.
ahead.
Where do I raise my hand? Right. hold on.
There's a bit that says reactions, but that's fine. We can definitely give you the stage to ask.
You just have to bear with me. I'm in reactions. Do I need to? It doesn't have one where I could raise my hand. Right. It's got a thumbs up. So would that do? Right.
Yes, a thumbs up would do.
All right. Yeah. So I just want to probably more of to Sister Yax that the I'm echoing. Is that me?
Yeah, you are.
Why?
I've just unmuted. Sister Rahima, if you would like to ask a question, please give us a reaction or let me know in the chat. And then inshallah, after Sister Kafaya's question, you can go after. Sister Kultum, I think, has already raised her hand. So if you are the 3rd person, do let us know. Go ahead, Sister Kafaya.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, because this topic you've spoken about is really, really important. And it affects so many women. I was at that point before that you spoke about today, and I'm sure there's many of us that can resonate with this. So I just wanted to ask you, because when we get into the situations that you've described, we're caught up in culture, we're caught up in religion. Doesn't even take a lot of I think attention in this, but it's our culture, like you said, grooming, that people tell you to stay in it. We suffer in silence. You're not allowed to speak about it. How do we break those cultural barriers and do what you did? And I'm glad you saw a therapist, because at least you've proven my talk that therapy does work as well. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Your question is, how did I break that barrier of culture? Did you say?
No, that culture is a lot that people talk from a cultural point of view. So if I was going through abuse, like you explained, so I could be going through abuse in my marriage. If I speak to friends or family, they will tell me to have patience, have sabr, everything will sort itself. Yeah. But these are cultural conditionings. These are beliefs that they're not healthy beliefs.
No.
And I'm saying, how do we break through to that?
Well, I mean, there will always be that. And I mean, that's the life we know. That is what I know. That is what we all know. We need to go within ourselves and start to realize that we have the power, and all what is stopping us is ourselves. We need to get out of our own way. Basically, develop the courage. Of course, it is fear, the fear of the unknown. And that is, so we say we are Muslims who totally submits. I mean, a Muslim is someone that surrenders completely. Yet when things happen, we are fearful. We get anxious about the future, which hasn't come yet. And we are so afraid about the future. And we are really upset holding on to the baggage of the past. So it's really up to us to look within, go within, sit with ourselves, and all of the speaking to friend up and down, it creates so much noise, to be honest. I mean, I was in that situation. You need to look at me. You need to see me on one of those days. I'm on the call up and down, as in I'm on the phone, talking to people, different types, sharing different versions. So until I started to tune down the noise, and when I say tune down the noise, therapy is number one. And I would say to people over and over again, you cannot underestimate the advantage going for therapy has. It is very powerful. I mean, I must have gone through about 2 or 3 therapists, of course. And I mean, at different times again, at first I went with a Muslim therapist. Of course, you know, the sentiment around, oh, it's a Muslim. I also wanted it to be a female so that she could understand what I was going through. But I realized that I didn't entirely get the value I was looking for. And so I had to kind of like drop that culture beat around, oh, it has to be a Muslim, or even kind of like slow down a bit to say, oh, it has to be a female. But luckily, all of the therapists I've had are female women. And the second therapist I got, she said to me yesterday, I'm going to be your therapist, but I'm not going to provide services to anybody within your family. So it's about courage. It's also about holding on to the rope of Allah, praying about it, asking for guidance. And I'm not the best of people that praise, although Allah has been able to help me to manage to say my prayers completely, of course. And in those times when I'm really struggling and down there in the dark place, I struggle to pray, to be honest. I think we all do. So in coming to that realization, is really to ask for Allah's help. You don't even need to get on your mat, from your heart, and just to say, oh, Allah, help me. Help me, oh Allah. And asking for help. Some people, I mean, I know one of my boys will ask me, asking for help makes you feel weak. I mean, he's a man. But I say, well, if I had asked for help sooner, maybe I wouldn't be in this situation. How about that? But we also need to be careful who we ask for help from, which is the reason why it's best to go for a professional. Either you go for a coach, or you're talking to a therapist or a counselor. And don't just, I mean, whoever it is that wants to hear your story must have proved worthy of hearing that story. So I hope that helps, sis.
Jazakallah khair, sister. Oh gosh, coach, yes. Sorry, I'm trying to read what's happening in the chat at the same time.
I think there's a whole lot going on in the chat box, don't worry.
Yes, yeah, there is. Thank you very much. Yeah. And hopefully, Sister Kafaya, she answered your question.
No, she did. Yeah, it was just and also from others as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It was really enlightening, and I hope those that are suffering in silence can be empowered and just, you know, bite the bullet and then just go and get the help they need.
Yeah. I think that's very, very important. And I also think it was important to highlight those cultural issues, cultural biases that we might come across on the road to recovery or self-rediscovery. Right, Sister Kultum, you have your hand up. Please feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear sisters.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I was in the midst of separating a fight when my elder sister sent me the link, so I joined really, really late listening to Sister Kafaya. But with the little that I was able to catch up with, I would like to ask Sister Kafaya, it's about the mental health of
Sister Kultum, we lost you there.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm just saying that with all what is going on in our schools today regarding our children and how much freedom they are being taught that they have to be free to choose whatever religion they want to choose, they want to join, to be free to be gay, to be free to be lesbians, to be free to be everything they want to be. And here we are at home also trying to teach them the Islamic way, the way of Allah. It's really mentally challenging sometimes when they kept asking you, Mommy, why? You answer, and then why? The why just don't stop. So I would like to ask, with the little bit we do at home as parents, and alhamdulillah, the prayers we support them with, is there anything extra we can do to help them mentally cope with all this?
So bismillah, so you know, when children are asking why, they'll keep asking why. That's just the way they are now. And sometimes when people are asking questions and we're asking why, and then you're given an answer, sometimes the soul is not satisfied. It hasn't had the response it's looking for. And sometimes they'll keep asking why. There's also letting our children know that not every question has an answer. Some things we don't know as well, right? I think ways of helping them, is making sure the information you're giving is child and age appropriate as well. And saying it in a language that they understand. So at home, what the Western world is telling them, I would say, sit your child down, listen to what they're saying, what information have they've got. We can talk to them about what Islam says from the Islamic perspective, right? And then give them time and space to think about it and ask questions. Something with our deans, because that's why they say Islam is strict, it isn't. Some things are just not negotiable. When it comes to the deen, when it comes to same-sex gender and all this stuff, the deen doesn't do it. And then we have to let them know the deen doesn't do that. So it is for us to give that information, and the hidayah and the guidance comes from Allah. And then that's where the prayers come in. Should I just stop there? I don't know if you want me to say more.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, I understand where you're coming from. I think sometimes in my case, it's the language that I use that's mostly my problem, because I tend to wonder what kind of words do I have to choose talking to them, especially when it comes to our religion and what our religion forbids us to do and not to do, actually. But I really understand you very much now. Thank you so very much.
Exactly. Okay. And if you want to talk more, my number is there. Just give me a call.
Yes, Alhamdulillah, I'll do that. Thank you.
Exactly.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Kafir. I think that was a very, very important question to ask as well. And once again, this is for a lot of us because these are real world issues that Muslims face on a day-to-day basis. Right, can we have the third hand raise or reaction, whatever reaction you want to choose, because I'm aware some people can't find the hand raise, for anyone who would like to unmute. Otherwise, I will take a question from the chat, inshallah. Okay. Right. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is this Sister Laura?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm
Go
not
ahead.
able to raise my hand, so I can't
Go
find
ahead.
where to raise my hand. Yeah.
That's
So,
it.
thank you. The last speaker, I also came in a little late. First of all, I want to ask, is there going to be a recording for this, please?
Sorry, you cut off just as you were saying what you wanted to ask.
Is there a recording for this?
There should be a recording. I believe it will be on the Salam Sisters website.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's been recorded.
Or would it
Then
be in the
the last
WhatsApp
speaker-
group? Sorry.
Oh, how can we
Mhm.
join the WhatsApp group, please?
I don't know if Ralda is still
Yeah,
online, or if Ralda is still online to share the details of how people can join.
There's a link on the chat box. If you click on it,
Okay.
it will take you to our website and you'll be able to join the WhatsApp group. Thank you.
Sorry.
So is that it, Sister Laura?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
No worries. And for anyone else who's missed any of the gems that have been shared with us, feel free to join through there as well. Right, so I'm going to try and see if I can find within the chat box a question that has been asked that we may or may not have gone through. Okay, here's one. It's from TI and it says, regarding physical abuse, how can people around help, especially the perpetrator? For example, how can a colleague, friend, or family stop the perpetrator or help them stop physical abuse, especially when they don't like you intervening, but it has gotten to a level the kids, as the teens, will also be impacted? So I'm going to put this to both of our coaches, our coach and our counselor.
Salam alaikum. How do we help the perpetrator? Is that the question?
Yes, especially when the perpetrator is not receptive to any form of intervention.
Well, I mean, that remains a big challenge till now. And what this experience has taught me again is that our men, and I hope that there are a lot of men on this call this afternoon, And if not, the sisters on the call should pass on the message to the men in their homes. We need to start to speak to our men. It may appear that this conversation we are having, it's often within and amongst the women alone. And of course, the perpetrator could also be a woman. Nothing says that the perpetrator is only a man. So we need to be mindful of that. So this is not to cast any shade on our men. They are very important to us. And the fact that we've had one experience with a man does not then shade all of the men as not being good enough or not okay. How can we help them? We need to continue to be creative in how we engage, and be creative. Creativity would come in different forms. And I mean, again, when there is the family involvement, it makes it really difficult, to be honest. It's also mucky and yucky, and you really can't, I mean, there's some kind of, you can't even free yourself of it. So if you want to come from the standpoint of you want to provide help to the perpetrator, you need to be careful that that does not put the person, the victim, in harm's way. Do you see? Otherwise, you have a good intention, yet you are causing double problems for the victim, which is where the seeking professional help can be more critical than anything. And I mean, here in Ghana, for example, there are authorities that you could report to. So I think the environment that one lives in could be helpful. You could report. I mean, there is the domestic violence something, I don't remember what the name is here in Ghana, that you could report. You could report to the police if you must. I mean, let's shout. Let's stop keeping quiet. I mean, we know in the Dean, when you keep quiet about things like this, that means you are part of the person perpetrating the oppression. You are part of it. And we all have a role to play. We must look out for each other. But again, we need to be mindful, we need to be careful, we need to be sensitive, we need to be tactful, and all of the the good words, if that makes sense. I hope that helps.
If I can just like sis, that was good. If I can just add a few more things to what Sister Yetsi said, I think the most important thing here is what Islam tells us. You know, the first principle of the Sharia is the preservation of life. And this is very important. That to me, what jumps out at me is this is a safeguarding issue. If I'm talking as a therapist, if someone is going through this abuse, safety first. That's the first thing. Now, we're asking a question of how can we stop them? One is we need to remove the victims and people who are going through this abuse from the situation. But what we're talking about here is people, we always say that let's find a way of harming the perpetrator for him or her, because it could be, you know, we talk about hers all the time. They could, men, there are women who do this as well, because it could be done to children. So I'm thinking safety first. We need to reach out for the, go to the right authorities and go to the right channels. Whether you go to the police, you go to social services, we're talking about in the UK, there's domestic violence support services in the areas that you work for, you live. I used to work for a domestic violence service in Preston, and everything is done confidentially, it's anonymous. If they have to remove the people, they remove them where the perpetrator cannot reach to them. The perpetrator needs to be spoken to because they also might need help as well. They could have mental issues. They could have all sorts of things going on with them, but nobody should be put in harm's way. So I think safety first, and then reaching out to the appropriate authorities to then deal with this issue. And if it's going to the police, go to the police. Like Sister Yetsi say, name and shame them. We have to, because if we don't, these people end up with other families and they repeat the same thing. We need to stop it. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think that definitely needed to be said, especially with the dynamic within some of our cultural communities, as you said. Preservation of life is the most important thing, and it's very difficult to help someone when the thing that is, from what I'm understanding also, apart from hurting the victim, the thing that is, you know, keep them away from what it is that they're doing wrong. so that you can then step in and intervene. And also when there's a consequence to an action, then maybe they'll be more likely to be open to receiving help. But when there is no consequence, then in some ways we are enabling that behavior. So I think that that's definitely very important to mention. And just to close off with the finally closing off, we are a little bit over time, but I will just try and wrap things up as neatly as possible. One person then asked, I felt like this was just too important to leave alone. You said, Sister Kafaya, about ensuring that the right person is spoken to when you need help, but be sure that that person is worthy of the information. I'm guessing they're asking, how can you figure out if they are worthy of the information? And then who are the right, I mean, you've already alluded to who the right people are to speak to, but like I said, how can you be sure that the person you're talking to is worthy of that information?
And so if you go, sometimes we talk about, firstly, you might go to family members if you can. And then you go to people that you know have got the wisdom and the knowledge and the ability to deal with it. And we're looking for trusted people who you can trust. And if you can't, you can go to these services that are out there. Domestic services, the social services are there. There's the police, you know, as much as you want to shy away from that. And that can then reach out to the person, because like for me, like I said, it's about safeguarding issues and stopping the perpetrator from doing what they're doing. So this is by getting trusted sources, this is, and I've named some of them. This is how we know that you're not just going to go and speak to anyone who's not going to help you. It's people that have got trusted authority and people we can trust.
So once again, an unbiased, trusted source who has the authority behind them would be the best choice when you can't find a family member. Right. For the sister asking about the WhatsApp group, please do know that we have, if you scroll up through the chat, if you go to the Salam Sisters website, you will find the WhatsApp link, or the link has already been posted in the chat as well. Right. Just to round up, thank you so much to both of our keynote speakers. I have gained so much from it, and I hope as well, so is every single one of you. And like I said before, whatever you need to write down, and if you can share with those around your community, you never know who you are going to help by sharing this information, sharing these groups with the women around you, the mothers, your sisters, your friends. You never know who you can benefit from this. And right, just to on a slightly different note as well, with Salam Sisters, if you, once again, if you're not familiar with us, and I forgot to mention before, but she already reiterated, Coach Yetz is also part of the Salam Sisters. This goes to show you the caliber of women that we have here today and we're able to bring together, and you, inshallah, are also able to be a part of. So inshallah, we have our next face-to-face meetup for lunch on February the 25th, inshallah, at 3 p.m. It is a Saturday. We will be looking to have lunch at the Sanam Sweet House restaurant in Manchester. Please do come along. There is a fee of £15, and I believe children under a certain age get a different amount. Just please do check in with the WhatsApp group if you are unsure. If you would like to book in, please take a screenshot of this page on the left, or I don't know where it is on your screen. Take a screenshot so you have the details of the account to pay to, and make sure that the reference when you pay is your name. Make sure the reference is your name and then /Sanam. It is written in the instructions there, so that we make sure that it is your payment that we've got. And when we go through, when we do have the lunch, we make sure the people who have paid are there. So please, you need to book by the 17th. That is in 2 days. So put your alarms if you need to remind you. We would love to meet all of you. We'd love to get to know more about you and how we can continue to grow this this community. I feel like this will be very, very beneficial for all of us to meet each other one-to-one. Okay, let me see if there's anything else that I have missed.
I don't know if you can permit me to just share one slide.
Go ahead, Sister Kafaya.
I just would like to share this, because it's not showing. Sorry, and I really apologize for doing
That's okay.
I just wanted to share two things with us, and to remind us that after every hardship comes ease. And remember that surah, Lam nashrah laka sadrak, that because Allah tells us that. So I want to remind us that. And I also want us to talk about celebrate yourself. You have to love yourself, because apart from Allah, no one else is going to love you more than yourself, apart from Allah. And then just celebrate your success and give yourself lots of self-care and love. Sorry, that was all I wanted to say.
No need to apologize. And I think that wraps it up very, very, very beautifully. So Jazakallah khair to every single person who joined, and our keynote speakers, Rauda, who has kind of been in the background, just making sure that everything was organized, who helped us organize this, and every single one of the Salam Sisters members, including those of you who have shared it with those of your loved ones. Please make use of these contacts that you are given today. Like I said, it is only impactful if we follow it through with any action from what we've learned. So Jazakallah khair. That's all from me, Rahma. And if you would like to reach me, if anyone would like to reach me, my realm is completely different, but Muslim related. I talk about hair care for Muslim women, and my Instagram is 4C_hijabi. I will put that below. If anyone would like to to find out what it is that I do. Other than that, thank you. I will leave everything open so that you can, for a few more, for a couple of minutes, so you can still scroll through the slides and take whatever information it is that you need. But soon enough, we will shut it down in about 2 minutes, inshallah. Let me just, I'm in the process of writing my Instagram handle. .com/4C_hijabi. And just to share, I've kind of kept this very quiet, and I hope no one would mind from Salam Sisters, because I've not really told anyone about this until recently, and we got confirmation. Planning to hold the first Afro hair and Muslim women's event ever in the UK. It might be around the world, but we don't know. Inshallah, we're looking at the February the 18th, inshallah, for that event. It will be held in London. More details to follow on my Instagram page and the page of the event, which is Curls, Coils and Sisters. So that's all from me. Hopefully you've gotten all the links that you need, and I think that's it. I'll just give you all a minute to copy anything that you need to copy, save anything that you need to save, and that's it. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.